Welcome to Pasadena Monthly. I'm your host, Justin Chapman. After taking a look at what's been going on in Pasadena this past month, we'll speak with our guest, Katie Hill, former member of Congress and the new CEO of Union Station Homeless Services. But before we get started, let's check out these Pasadena Media News Briefs.
For Pasadena Media, this is a news update. Union Station Homeless Services has been actively providing aid to individuals, families, and children displaced by the Eden Fire. Frontline staff members are on the ground in Pasadena distributing meals, food, clothing, hygiene kits, and essential supplies to those affected. With tens of thousands losing their homes, workplaces, and community spaces, the organization remains committed to addressing critical needs and offering direct support. Weekly distribution is held every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Union Station Adult Center in Pasadena, ensuring that those in need, regardless of residency at Union Station facilities, have access to essential resources. Community members can contribute to the relief effort through monetary donations, gift cards for essential goods, or donations such as new bedding, towels, toiletries, detergent, flashlights, and bottled water. Volunteers are also welcome to assist with distribution efforts on Wednesdays, with available shifts in the morning and evening. Union Station Homeless Services encourages the public to get involved and help provide relief to those in crisis. For more information or to donate, visit ushs.org. LA County Supervisor Catherine Barger has launched the Altadena Recovery Commission to support long-term recovery efforts following the devastating Eden Fire. The ARC's mission is to organize, resource, and facilitate the rebuilding of the Altadena community. The commission will ensure that recovery efforts are systematic, methodical, and community-driven, focusing on restoring homes, infrastructure, businesses, commercial corridors, and natural habitats with sustainability and resilience at the forefront. The ARC will also explore ways to modernize infrastructure, develop scalable housing solutions, and create methods that prioritize community preferences. Supervisor Catherine Barger will serve as chair of the commission, leading a diverse group of members from businesses, philanthropic and faith-based organizations, and local, state, and federal government partners. For more information, visit catherinebarger.lacounty.gov/ARC or email Catherine at bos.lacounty.gov to express your interest and get connected. AC Hotel Pasadena is preparing to open its doors in February. This new Playhouse Village addition to Pasadena is part of the design-driven lifestyle brand AC Hotels by Marriott and features 194 modern guest rooms. The hotel has recently appointed Ben Spalding as general manager and Kristen Shelton as sales and marketing director. Spalding brings over a decade of industry experience, having held key leadership roles at renowned properties such as the Fairmont Grand Del Mar and Fairmont Copley Plaza, as well as experience with Loews Hotels and Company, where he honed his expertise in operations and guest service. Shelton, a Southern California native, joins AC Hotel Pasadena with more than 15 years of experience in hospitality, including roles as Associate Sales Director for DoubleTree by Hilton and Marriott San Diego Del Mar. She played an instrumental role in the grand reopening of the latter property for its renovation. Developed by Welcome Group, Inc., AC Hotel Pasadena is located on Colorado Boulevard near Pasadena's Playhouse Village and right on the Rose Parade route, offering a perfect blend of style, comfort, and convenience for both visitors and locals alike. For more information about the new hotel, visit achotelpasadena.com. For Pasadena Media, this is Angela Herrer.
Let's turn next to our lightning round of news updates. 1. Incredibly, it's been less than 2 months since the Eden Fire. Feels like yesterday and a decade ago. The EPA has already cleared hazardous material from more than 75% of properties. Phase 2 of the cleanup operation has already begun, which includes removing ash and debris, implementing erosion control measures, and applying hydro mulching to prepare the site for future rebuilding. Unusually, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers said it will not test the soil after removing 6 inches of topsoil since toxins rest in the top 3 inches. They should test it anyway. Colonel Eric Swenson of the Army Corps said he anticipates the debris removal and cleanup being completed by January 8th, so about a year later, with the vast majority of properties being completed much sooner than that. Farnsworth Park and Altadena Golf Course are being used by the EPA as a staging area for the collection of household hazardous materials. The Lario staging area near Azusa, Duarte, and Irwindale is another location which many residents in that area are not happy about. The cleanup operation is estimated to involve 2.5 million tons of debris from about 9,400 destroyed structures across Pasadena and Altadena, with more than 1,500 truckloads to be hauled away every day. There are 3 major truck routes for debris removal, from Woodbury Road to Arroyo Boulevard to the 210, New York Drive to Sierra Madre Villa Avenue to Rosemead Boulevard to the 210, and Michelinda Avenue to the 210. Also, the Red Cross has moved about 125 remaining Eaton Fire evacuees from the Pasadena Convention Center to the Pamela Park Gymnasium in Duarte. Looking forward, CAL FIRE will release new fire hazard maps next month that could significantly expand Altadena's designated high fire zones. And LA County Supervisor Catherine Barger has created a new county commission called the Altadena Recovery Commission that will inform and guide the rebuilding process. Also, the Virginia-based McChrystal Group, a firm founded by retired 4-star General Stanley McChrystal, the former leader of the U.S. military's Joint Special Operations Command, has been selected by LA County to conduct an independent review of the evacuation policies and emergency alert notification systems used in the response to the Palisades and Eaton fires. 2. As for the air quality in the region, a Caltech atmospheric chemistry expert assured the Pasadena City Council that it has largely normalized following the Eaton fire. The city also released environmental test results showing no alarming levels of hazardous materials in city facilities and air quality following the fire. The testing at 8 city facilities found no detectable asbestos and no lead measurements exceeding federal safety thresholds. So the city amended the local health emergency declaration and modified the temporary restrictions on all leaf blowers, now only restricting leaf blower use within the fire perimeter and 50 feet of fire damaged structures. The Air Quality Management District likewise found near zero levels of any type of air toxic metals or volatile organic compounds in the burn areas of Altadena and Pasadena. Caltech researchers found that levels of toxic contaminants dropped to pre-fire levels 4 days after the fire started. 3. Dia Duvernay has resigned as president and CEO of the Pasadena Humane Society after 5 years. Her tenure was marked by significant program expansion and emergency response initiatives. The board has appointed Vice President and Chief Programs Officer Chris Ramon, who has served at Pasadena Humane since 2018 as its interim CEO and is engaged with an executive search firm. Pasadena Humane really stepped up in the aftermath of the Eaton fire to provide shelter and medical care to more than 1,000 displaced animals. 4. Pasadena's new independent police auditor, Teresa Magula of the Office of Independent Review Group, who replaced Dr. Richard Rosenthal, presented her first monthly report before the Community Police Oversight Commission. She announced plans to hold a series of bilingual town hall meetings as one part of a comprehensive strategy to strengthen community police relations and increase public accessibility to oversight processes. Her current projects include a mediation program, a review of pretextual stops, and an early warning system for officer conduct. The Pasadena Police Department also reported decreases across several major crime categories in 2024. 5. Mayor Victor Gordo delivered his State of the City address last week. The original theme was Building Our Community's Future and was going to focus more on the 710 stub and economic opportunities, but the mayor pivoted to highlighting resilience in the wake of the fires. He also laid out the city's economic stability due to sound financial decisions made during the COVID pandemic, its housing challenges and successes, and plans for long-term recovery. 6. The Pasadena City Council is accepting applications to fill upcoming vacancies on the Pasadena Rental Housing Board. The application period is now open and closes on Monday, April 21st at 5:30 p.m. Application forms are available at the City Clerk's office at City Hall. 7. The Pasadena Unified School District has proposed implementing $12 million in budget reductions for the 2025 to 26 school year and eliminating more than 150 full-time equivalent positions due to declining enrollment and financial difficulties. Preliminary layoff notices must be issued by March 15th and final determinations must be made by May 15th. PUSD and the Teachers Union are also at an impasse in negotiations over $16 million in staffing and salary proposals. The Teachers Union is seeking to add 29 teachers, 6 counselors, 2 librarians, and 7 nurses, along with a 7.77% annual salary increase, while the district argues it is facing a $37 million projected deficit. 8. The city has launched a recruitment process for the next general manager of Pasadena Water and Power. Residents can submit their feedback through an online survey on the city's website, available until March 4th. Candidate screenings will take place next month and interviews will take place in April. 9. The City Council approved an adaptive reuse ordinance that creates a simpler pathway for converting commercial structures to residential use by providing incentives and eliminating public hearings for projects that meet certain criteria. However, they excluded hotels from the ordinance. The ordinance, which has been in development for about 3 years and would amend and add sections to the city's zoning code, is intended to streamline the process of converting non-residential buildings into housing while protecting the city's tourism economy. And 10, a delegation from Guanajuato, Mexico, led by that city's mayor, Samantha Smith, visited Pasadena over the New Year's holiday to explore our community and explore the possibility of forming a sister city relationship between Pasadena and Guanajuato. The delegation attended the Rose Parade, took tours at the Rose Bowl, Norton Simon, and City Hall, met with city officials, and much more. It's an exciting opportunity that we'll be hearing about more soon. Let's welcome our guest, Katie Hill. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Katie is a former member of Congress and now the new CEO of Union Station Homeless Services. She is the former executive director of PATH, People Assisting the Homeless, a nonprofit organization developing affordable and supportive services for unhoused Californians. She also helped pass a ballot initiative that provided $1.2 billion in funds for homeless services in LA County. She represented California's 25th Congressional District in 2019 and was recently appointed to the LA Homeless Services Authority Commission, where she will be working to reform policies and systems to ensure effective utilization of increased public resources. So, Katie, thanks for coming. Tell us about your career before Congress and your work in the homeless services space, PATH, and on Measure H.
Sure. Politics was actually just a very brief pit stop. I have spent almost my entire career working in homeless services. I was with PATH for nearly a decade, worked my way up through all kinds of different programs and operations within PATH. And by the time I left, I was the executive director. I decided to run for office because of the issues that we work on here and understanding that homelessness can't be solved without addressing these broader systemic problems like income inequality and the cost of housing and mental health and so many of these other issues that we just aren't able to fix on our own. So that's what led me to running for office in the first place. And I'm really happy to be back in this space.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after I came back from Congress, I joined HOPIX, which is the Homeless Outreach Program integrated care system in South Los Angeles, and really gained diverse perspectives on how homelessness impacts different parts of the region and really how lucky we are in some parts and with some demographies. So in terms of passing the ballot measure, I worked on developing and passing Measure H back when it first got off the ground in 2017. I was pretty much out of this space during a lot of the implementation, but now was able to help get Measure A developed and passed as well. And that's going to be the permanent replacement for Measure H and also adds additional dollars towards prevention and towards developing permanent housing.
And what led to the new position with Union Station, and what are your goals and ideas for that organization?
Sure. I actually, at a Measure A event, met one of the members of the recruiting committee on the board for Union Station. So I had a good conversation. It was actually I was not sure at first that I wanted to move back into a CEO type role. Being in the spotlight for a while was was enough to turn you off from it. But it seemed like the right opportunity. I'm really impressed with the organization. I think that Union Station has such a long history of being impactful, and I love this community in terms of the support that's provided and the dedication of the neighbors. So it fits right in with the work that I want to be doing, and I think that Union Station has the opportunity. We could never have known this previously, but with the fires, with Eaton especially, to have a real impact on the way that we deal with the housing crisis and the homelessness crisis moving forward. So I'm glad to be here for it, even though it's a really challenging time for the organization as it is for the community as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, suddenly thousands more people are unhoused in a moment. How is that going to impact Union Station going forward?
We know that it's going to have a huge impact for the foreseeable future. We started right after, the day after the fires, we started having emergency distribution center at our adult center on Raymond, and we have kept that up. We were doing it every single day for a while for the first 2 weeks, but then now we've slowed down to once a week on Wednesdays, doing distribution of all kinds of different items that people might need, whether it's bedding or food, of course, and gift cards, things like that, to help people just try and make it in the meantime. But at the same time, we're getting their information, helping them. We've had DPSS, the Department of Social Services, and FEMA on site to help with applications for assistance and benefits. And we've been very fortunate to be getting a lot of private support to help with the fire response. So right now, what we're really doing is getting a good sense of the needs that people have and what we can do to help them resolve their homelessness. I think that there's housing location is going to be a huge need. We're trying to figure out what gaps we can fill in using those private dollars that are flexible, while making the most of the government dollars that are going to be available for this as well.
And what do you think of the recent or last year's Supreme Court decision on Grants Pass and how that should influence cities' decision making? Should they change their approach because of that?
So I think that the decision on Grants Pass was really unfortunate for a variety of reasons. Mainly that it pretty much makes it okay and to be the stated policy of the United States to just move people around,
Right.
to just move them from place to place. And that puts communities that are frankly more welcoming into the really difficult situation of having people come from elsewhere to receive the services and to be simply because they're pushed out. So Pasadena has a much more welcoming approach than a lot of the other cities that are in the San Gabriel Valley. And I worry that we're already starting to see some of those effects. And Grants Pass just doesn't give any additional resources to addressing the problem.
Right.
It simply allows cities to push people away and say that it's not our problem. And I think that that's a huge mistake. And ultimately, homelessness is a regional problem. So in Los Angeles County, I'm optimistic that we're taking a more regional approach. But I do think that it's going to cause additional challenges for communities like this one.
Right. And Pasadena already was not a target, but a hub because it had so many resources to begin
Transportation
with.
and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
And the city also completed its homeless count, its annual homeless count got delayed a little bit because of the fire. How will those results help guide Union Station in its mission?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how much of a direct impact from the fires we are able to tell from this first from this first homeless count in its aftermath. I don't know that we will see I know that we won't see the full effects of it because a lot of people are still couch surfing and are, out of the area with family and friends.
Right.
So I don't think that we're going to see that in the street homelessness number as much as, we will next year, frankly. But what we do know is that the count is a large factor in determining the resources that come to this community for homeless services in particular. So Measure A is whatever the calculation is, it's going to largely depend on the homeless count results for Pasadena as its own, but also for the county as a whole. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important for us to make sure that we are getting as accurate a count as possible so that we can advocate for the resources that we know this region is going to need to be able to respond to the drastic increase in homelessness and decrease in housing resources. So we'll see what it says, and we have our outreach teams out in the field. We have our resource centers that people are able to come to, and we're trying to keep a pulse on what the needs are, what we're seeing, what the trends are like, and a point in time count is just that, right? It's a single couple of nights. So it only gives you so much of a glimpse into the information, but we're capturing it on an ongoing basis and are just going to try to respond as flexibly and in an ongoing way.
Yeah. I mean, it's something to track over the long term, right? I mean, I remember, 10 years ago, maybe it was double what it is today. So it has gone down, but it's still a sizable number every year.
It does feel like a more manageable number here than it does if you look at the county as a whole. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to make a dent. I just know that the reality of the situation is one that we're not going to be able to solve anytime soon.
Right. Why is this issue seems so intractable? I mean, so many resources and funds have been thrown at this, and it seems like the needle doesn't move that much, or that's the perception from the general public. What is it going to take to make some progress?
So one thing that has to happen is that we have to prevent people from falling into homelessness in the first place. And none of the resources that we have dedicated towards this effort as a whole have really been strategically targeted towards preventing people from becoming homeless. And that's a tough thing to figure out anyway, because there's so many different paths, and it really depends on what your family situation's like, how you are involved in the community, as to where you're going to land if something terrible happens, right? But preventing that inflow is absolutely crucial to us being able to have a visible impact on homelessness, because otherwise to a person walking down the street, it doesn't matter if you've housed all 50,000 people in this county. If there's still 50,000 people because another 50,000 people became homeless, then it doesn't seem like it's working. So we have to really address that. We have to deal with the affordable housing crisis, and that to me is not just developing permanent supportive housing, which I think is really important, and affordable housing, but it's all income levels. We need housing of all types so that we can create that kind of flow that opens up more affordable housing to people who don't have other options. I think that we have made some progress as a state in terms of dedicating resources to substance abuse and mental health, but those like Prop 1, it has not been fully actualized yet, and it'll probably take some time to be able to do so. And the reality is that homelessness is in large part due to income inequality. So even now, even if you're able to get somebody into an apartment, if their wages haven't gone up, even a good paying job right now, it's, let's say $25 an hour is barely enough for you to be able to afford a place to live at all, let alone something that is, in a good space for your family. So I think that we have to continue to look at all of it, and as an entire society, we have to recognize that if we don't address all of these other factors, we are just managing the homeless problem, right? We're not going to get ahead of it really. We might see some ups and downs in terms of the actual number on any given night, but we're not going to solve the problem if we don't solve these other pieces. So I think unfortunately it's something that's here to stay, and our response is one that we have not. Our response collectively is one that we have not landed on. Of do we want to invest in more shelters and just get people off the street, or do we want to put more into permanent housing, and what are the supportive services, and how long do we provide resources for? So there's just a lot that still has to be determined, and I hope that the community can gain more awareness of where those resources are going, what's working, what's not, and what we need to do as part of the big picture.
One idea that the city of Pasadena has been considering lately is homeless courts. So what are your thoughts on that model?
I think it's great to have. I think that it's not necessarily going to solve homelessness for somebody, right? It's the ability to access resources instead of, incarceration. And that's great. That's important, but I just don't want people to think that that's somehow going to solve the problem of people being on the streets. We actually just met with the city prosecutors to talk about their plans with homeless court, and I think it'll be, a great resource for the community. But at the end of the day, we need to put more into actual housing solutions if any of it's going to have a meaningful impact.
How can the community support Union Station's mission? I understand you have the Generous Plates fundraiser coming up in April,
Yes,
I believe.
we do. We have a fundraiser. We've done Masters of Taste for several years, but in the aftermath of the fires, we felt like it would be, that wasn't the right vibe for our community as a whole, and so we decided to scale down the event and make it something called Generous Plates. So it'll be a unique experience. It's a little bit more like a gala feeling than it is, the entire Rose Bowl. But it's the first one like this that we've had, and we're really excited for the turnout and everyone knowing the response that Union Station is putting up, not only in the wake of the fires, but also just for this problem that has been part of our community for so long.
Mm-hmm. And are there other ways people can get involved, volunteer, time, resources?
Absolutely. So every Wednesday we are doing these distribution days, and we plan on keeping that to the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. So there are shifts that people can sign up for. If you go on our website, you can find volunteer opportunities, and it's not just Wednesdays that we have them all the time. Mm-hmm. People are able to help prepare a meal at one of our sites. They're able to help with a whole variety of things. And of course, donations are always welcome. And I think it's just going to take a collective work to make a real dent.
Well, Katie, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I wish you were still in Congress. I mean, did you really need to leave?
I'm glad to be here.
I feel like we need you there, but
you know what?
Maybe you wouldn't want to be at this time.
The reality is that we can just have a bigger impact, I think, when we focus locally, and I'm genuinely grateful for the opportunity to do so here. I feel bad for my former colleagues in Washington because I don't think that they're going to be able to get a lot done for a while.
Well, we're grateful to have you here, and congratulations on the new position. And thanks so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Before we go, here is this month in Pasadena history. It was this month in 1927 when Pasadena's third Central Library was dedicated on February 12, 1927. Designed by Myron Hunt and H.C. Chambers, Central Library is one of 3 buildings, including City Hall and the Civic Auditorium, that formed the Bennett Plan, which created Pasadena's Civic Center. Construction was funded by a voter-approved $3.5 million bond issue. Central Library is the third of 3 buildings the library has occupied since its founding in 1882. It began as a private subscription library under the name Pasadena Library and Village Improvement Society. The library's founding predates the city's incorporation by 4 years. Its first building was on the south side of Colorado Street between Raymond Street and the Santa Fe tracks and opened February 26, 1884. This building was moved to 42 West Dayton Street in 1886. The second building, which opened on September 9, 1890, was located on the southeast corner of Walnut Street at Raymond Avenue in what is now known as Memorial Park. The current Central Library, of course, closed in 2021 due to the building's vulnerability to collapse during an earthquake. And last year, voters approved a $195 million bond to make the necessary earthquake repairs to reopen the historical library, which is expected by 2028. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Pasadena Monthly. Tune in every 4th Friday of the month at 5 p.m. Learn more at pasadenamedia.org and justindouglaschapman.com. Drop me a line at jchapman@cityofpasadena.net. We'll see you next time.